Hello BookTube, welcome to Lizzie Faye Loves Books. I'm Elizabeth, and in this video I would like to show you the graphic novels that I read and the audiobooks that I listened to during the month of May. Now I read 4 graphic novels in May, 2 were for younger readers and 2 were for adults, and then I listened to 9 audiobooks. 5 of those were during the week of Middle Grade May Reads Readathon, and then 1 of them was for my book club, and the rest were just random audiobooks that I listened to during the month. So first let me show you the graphic novels that I read. Early in the month, I read Blankets. At the time I ordered this from the library, I had not heard anyone on BookTube talking about this except for Christine from Kizzy Reads, and she said she liked it and it looked really interesting, so I decided to pick it up. Since then I have heard Whitney from Whitney Novels talking about it as well, and this was really interesting. From what I gather, it is an autobiographical graphic novel, and it goes through the young life and new adulthood of Craig Thompson, who is the artist and author, and it tells about a lot of things that he experienced as he was growing up. Some of it's very raw and very hard to read and see. There's some pretty rough stuff in here, but at the same time it's very emotional, it's raw, it seems honest. And one thing I thought was unusual is how much he talked about his life in church and the things his parents taught him and the things that his pastor taught him. Now at the end it still seemed like he was a little undecided about what he was going to believe going forward. And I, of course, as a Christian, was still rooting for him to go back to his roots. This author is still a fairly young man, and a lot could change in his lifetime. So I'm still holding out hope that he will go back to his roots. But at the time the book ends, he's still questioning things. And I think that's normal and natural for a person to be trying to figure out who they are. You know, you factor in what you learned as a kid based on what you now know as an adult, and you look at all the different influences that you have, and you make your decisions about how you're going to live your life, taking into account all of those things. I thought that portion of the book was very interesting. It also goes through his young love, his first girlfriend, and his experiences with her, and there's some crude humor and things that him and his brother did as young boys that I don't need to see that, you know, but I guess that's what boys do. I don't know. But overall, I enjoyed the book, but there were some parts that were tough and that were a little raw for me. But that's what makes this book unique, I think. And if you have read this book, I would be interested to know your take on it. If you think it's something you would be interested in, then by all means pick it up. But there is a little bit of nudity, a little bit of foul language. But again, this is autobiographical, so if this is what happened, then he's being true. It was very interesting and very big. This was a very large book. It's all black and white. So if this is something that you think you would be interested in, then definitely you should pick it up. Now my arm hurts from holding that big book up. Then the very last book I read in May was Displacement, a travelogue by Lucy Knisley. The bookmobile was in town the other day and I was browsing the shelves, and this looked interesting. This is a memoir of when the author, Lucy, accompanied her grandparents on a cruise. At the time they went on the cruise, her grandparents were 89 and 91, I believe. And so she is basically their caregiver during this time, trying to help them have a good time and help them to be safe and keep them healthy and all of the things that she experienced during that. And it was very interesting. I used to work on a cruise ship for a little while, and so that's kind of why it caught my eye, but I thought it was very good. There were a couple, again, there was a little bit of bad language, but other than that, I really enjoyed the experience of reading it. Another thing that made this book really interesting, on the cruise, she carried along a copy of her grandfather's World War II memoir. And so throughout the book, she would read excerpts from that. And that was just really fascinating because you're seeing her grandfather as a 90-year-old, and then you're seeing him as a young man in the war. And I thought it was very good. So I would definitely recommend picking this up if this is something that interests you. And I also read 2 of the Percy Jackson graphic novels. This is book 2, The Sea of Monsters, and book 3, The Titan's Curse. These I got from the library, and I really enjoyed them. I read the Percy Jackson series several years ago and thoroughly enjoyed them. I listened to them on audio, and I have a pretty good memory of what takes place in the Percy Jackson books, but it was starting to get a little muddled, and so if nothing else, these helped to kind of refresh the story for me so that I remembered what actually happened in the Percy Jackson books. And I thought the artwork was very good. I really liked how they drew Annabeth. I thought Annabeth was beautifully drawn. Percy, I wasn't as big of a fan of how Percy was drawn, but I really liked how Annabeth was drawn. The artist did a great job with her look. So I thought these were very good, and if you are a fan of Percy Jackson and you have not picked up these graphic novels, then you should definitely check them out. Now, on to my audiobooks. When May started, I had decided I was going to do RibSat. I was not too concerned with listening to a lot of audiobooks during the beginning of May because I was needing to catch up on YouTube videos. So I did a little bit of that, and then pretty soon I started to realize that I was not going to get my book club book done if I didn't get started. My book club book was All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr, and when I realized that time was running short, my husband already had this in his car, and so I didn't want to take it away from him, so I went ahead and started Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare. And then after I got about half done with this, I realized that I was going to have to get to this, or I was not going to get it done by book club, which is the 3rd Thursday of the month. So I said to my husband, please can I have the first couple of discs so that I can get started on this? So I ended up getting those, and then on his days off, when he was home and not in his car much anyway, then I got ahead of him and was able to finish just in time for book club. I will say though, I believe that this book is really not a good choice for audio. I did complete it on audio, but I also picked up the print book from the Bookmobile, and I pretty much read it twice. I read almost the entire print book and listened to the entire audiobook. If you're not familiar with this book, it's a World War II book. It actually spans quite a long period of time, but the majority of it takes place during World War II. But the chapters are very short, and the perspective changes with almost every chapter. So unless you are really paying close attention, you know, one chapter can be over and you can be halfway into the next chapter before you realize, oh wait a minute, what just happened? I don't know who's talking now or where we are. And so I had a hard time following it on audio. So I was really glad that I had picked up the print book, because basically after I listened to 1 or 2 discs of this, I went back and reread all of that in the book, and then I just alternated back and forth so that for the majority of the time, I would listen to it first and then read it to kind of cement it in my head. But there were a couple times when I read ahead and then I went back and I listened to it on audio just to catch up to where I was. So I had a really good reading experience with this book by doing that. Now, I know some people listen to an audiobook and read it at the same time. I tried that, and that didn't really work for me because I don't read at the same exact pace as the audio narrator. So it worked well for me to just kind of go back and forth, and that way I really read it twice, and I absorbed it, and I enjoyed it, and I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. This is really, really a great book. So if you have not read it, I definitely recommend it. Now back to the Shadowhunters. I listened to Clockwork Angel. My husband also listened to this one. Our plan is to do this in the recommended order, which is publication order. We have listened to the first 3 Mortal Instruments, and now Clockwork Angel. Then we will go back to the next Mortal Instruments, and then back and forth from there. So yeah, this was very good. Again, I had to listen to the first disc a couple of times just to kind of get a feel for where I was and what was happening and everything, and then I started to get into it more, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I know a lot of people say they like this series better than Mortal Instruments. So far, they're kind of neck and neck for me, about the same, but from what I hear, this gets really good. So I'm looking forward to the next one of these, as well as the next one of the Mortal Instruments series. Perhaps I will get to that in the month of June. I also listened to Yes Please by Amy Poehler on Playaway from the library. If you've not heard me talk about Playaways before, they are little MP3 players that you hook headphones to, and you can carry them around in your pocket, or you can even hang a lanyard on one and hang it around your neck. And this was pretty good. I've heard a lot of good things about it, and I do really appreciate comedic talent. I love Saturday Night Live and a lot of the performers who have come and gone from Saturday Night Live. What I didn't particularly enjoy about this book was the crude humor. That's not my thing, but I certainly do appreciate the comedic talent that Amy Poehler has, and those parts I really did enjoy. But it's funny because, you know, I talk a lot on my channel about foul language and how I don't like it, and people in my real life know that too, because when I picked this up at the library kind of on a whim. When I was checking it out, one of the other library staff who happened to be walking by and saw it, she said, "Oh, and that has it." She goes, "That's really good, but just so you know, there is some bad language in that, and I know you don't like that." So I appreciated knowing that going into it. And really, with a modern day comedian, I would have been shocked if there wasn't bad language, but it was good to know. And because it was in my pocket in earbuds, I didn't have to worry about my kids hearing it. So so that, you know, that made it better. Then in my car, I listened to Just Shy of Harmony by Philip Gulley. I listened to this twice. I did not care for the narrator, Norman Dietz, nearly as much as I did when Philip Gulley narrated the first book, Home to Harmony. And it's not that it was bad. I just got used to Philip Gulley finally, and then I didn't want to change. And also, Norman Dietz had, I think, a little more difficulty with country accents. That's not really, I don't think that's really his strong point. And I can't remember where I've heard him before, but I wasn't a fan of his narration, and some of his some of the characterizations that he did, and the country accents that he tried to give some of the characters just didn't work for me. But the book was great. I now also have it in print, and so I will probably read it again in print so that I can just hear the voices that I want to hear and not the narrator for this one. But the book was excellent. I have been, now that I know about these books, I have been on the hunt for them at book sales, and I've been able to find most of them now, and I'm so excited because this is one of my new favorite series, and I am really enjoying it. The rest of the audio books were all middle grade books. So that I don't have one huge video, I'm doing a separate wrap-up of my print books that I read for Middle Grade May Reads. So here are the audiobooks that I read for that readathon as well. I listened to Crenshaw by Katharine Applegate. I have heard Patty, formerly known as I Smell Books, talk about Crenshaw, and I could think a couple of other people. So I wanted to pick this up. It's really kind of a depressing story, but it's good. It's about a boy whose family are going through some financial difficulties, and his old imaginary friend from his younger years has started making appearances again and is helping him through this. I think the story is sort of heartbreaking, but it is a very good story. It is either a Newbery winner or a Newbery honor book. I really enjoyed it, though. It's not so much about the cat as it is about the family and what they're going through and how this young man is dealing with it. It's not really a happy book, but it is a very heartwarming book. Then in my car, I listened to Tales from the House of Bunnicula. This is books 1 through 4, and they're basically little short stories that are written by the family dog from the family in Bunnicula. Now, I picked this up at a book sale a while back, just grabbed it. It was a fill-a-box situation, and I really thought I was getting the first 4 Bunnicula books. I didn't realize that this is really kind of a companion book to Bunnicula. And so I have not read any of the Bunnicula books. My daughter read the first one, and I have a basic understanding of what they are and who the characters are. but I think I will appreciate this a lot more after I read the Bunnicula books and then go back and be able to identify the characters, and I will enjoy it a lot more. Now, I did finish it, and they were cute. There was a lot of wordplay in the stories and puns and things like that, and there was one really cute part where he says something like, and we were riveted to the spot, and not only that, we couldn't move. And it's just really cute. So I definitely enjoyed it, but I think I will enjoy it more after I have read the Bunnicula books. Then on my computer, I listened to Ozma of Oz by L. Frank Baum. This is book 3 in the Wizard of Oz series. For middle grade May reads, I read the first 2 Wizard of Oz books. Then I was able to get Ozma of Oz on computer on e-audio. So I then checked out a hard copy from the library so that I could see the illustrations, and I just got this last night, so I am in the process of still kind of going back through and enjoying the illustrations and the artwork, because of course you don't get that when you listen to the audiobook. I thoroughly enjoyed it. When I do my wrap-up of middle grade books, I will talk a little bit about the Oz series, and I don't want to give spoilers. When I first saw this title, I thought, well, who is Ozma? Well, you find out in book 2 who Ozma is, and I'm not going to tell you if you haven't read them, because you have to find that out for yourself. But it was a cute book. I did enjoy it. Dorothy is back in this book. She does not make an appearance in the second Oz book, but I understand that she appears now in the next several books. And then I had 2 rereads that are middle grade books. I wanted to reread Shiloh. This is one of the Newbery winners from the 90s, and I remembered the basic story of it, but I just kind of wanted to listen to it again and just kind of refresh myself, because I'm going to be doing some Newbery videos pretty soon, and so this one I didn't remember a lot of the details, so I listened to this again, and it was very good. I think there are 2 more books in the series, and I don't know if I will reread those or not, but I did enjoy listening to this one again. Then on audio, I also listened to Number the Stars by Lois Lowry. I mostly listened to this on Playaway, but I also got a print copy from the library as well. This is about a young girl and her family during the time of the German occupation of Denmark during World War II, and it's very good. Again, this is another Newbery winner that is a reread for me. I wanted to be able to refresh myself on some of the details, and as soon as I started it, it kind of all started coming back to me. Our main character, Anne-Marie Johansson, is a young girl whose best friend is Jewish, and so this is the story of Anne-Marie's family doing what they can to help their Jewish friends escape Denmark and get to a safe place during the German occupation. I think this is a really good introduction to the intensity of World War II for young readers. Yeah, this is a really good starter book for a young person to learn a little bit about the World War II situation, but without being too graphic. Now, I read some of the reviews online, and some people thought this was a little too fluffy, but I think it's really well done. And Lois Lowry is, of course, an amazing author. She wrote The Giver and that whole quartet, so I definitely recommend this book. Alright, so that is all the graphic novels and audiobooks that I read during the month of May. I'm really excited about how much I was able to read in the month of May. I read over 30 books. Now, a lot of them are short, and of course you can see a lot of them were audiobooks. But I am so thrilled about how much I was able to read during the month of May. I'll be getting my June TBR filmed here pretty soon, and because I read so many small books in May, I think that I'm only going to read big books in June, and so I'm excited about that. I've been getting my TBR lined up, and I will be getting that video out as soon as possible. But first, my next video will be all of the middle grade print books that I read during the month of May. So I guess that's all for this video. I hope you're having a great day. Read a good book, and God bless you.